Hey, what's going on? Erik Cortina here. So I've been getting enough messages from you guys about my reloading process questions that that tells me I need to make another video. So typically what I do, you guys may ask about, I don't know, how to select a bushing size, or how to select a how to measure jam, how to break in a barrel, this, that, and the other. So what I do is I typically just send you to that video in the series that kind of covers that. But of course, once you guys watch that, you may go and have a follow-up question, and then I kind of have to lead you to another video that covers that. So anyway, so I've decided to do one video to cover the whole thing. This is for the PRS reloading series. It's very similar to F-Class. F-Class has some additional things, but for all intents and purposes, this works. Okay, so all right, let's get into it. Let's cover the entire reloading series in one video, which some of you guys have actually been asking for, and here it is. Number one, Fireform brass speed up barrel. I'm assuming you're starting with a brand new barrel, brand new brass, brand new everything. Okay, so what I do is I load up, I don't know, 100 to 200 pieces of brass, kind of a mild load, not a very hot load, and I load it up. I find my jam. I come off 20,000s, or if I'm limited by mag length, whichever one is shorter, then I go to mag length and I shorten it to 20,000s, okay, or more. It really doesn't matter. The reason for finding jam is our danger point. If you are at jam, you're running the risk of sticking a bullet in the rifling. Okay, that's the only reason we find jam, because once we find jam, we know we only have one way to go. Same thing if you have a magazine and you are limited by if you're limited by mag length, then you go to mag length and back off 20, 30, whatever you want. The point is you just want to be away from the danger point. Okay, jump doesn't matter. You can pretty much get your rifle to shoot at any point because you have a sine wave. That's your shooting depth. It's a sine wave on your groups, so you can find accuracy anywhere. So obviously we want to be as long as possible to maximize case capacity, and but anyway, that's the only reason to find jam point. A lot of you kind of get stuck on that and say, well, I found jam, but that puts me kissing the lance, or it doesn't matter. You find jam only to find your danger point. You work off of that, and we're gonna let the target tell us where the rifle likes to shoot, regardless of where it is, in relation to the lance. But anyway, so that's that, right? I find jam or mag length, whichever one is limiting my case overall length, and back off of that, I load a mild load. I go shoot it, and initially I only tune with my tuner. Now, if you want to maximize this, you can actually do a preliminary powder charge test, and you can find a load that has a low ES, with virgin brass. And once you find that, then you can tune that load, and then you can go practice. Okay, that's gonna get you through the initial speed up stage of your barrel, because they're gonna speed up. How much, it depends. They're different. Typically 100 or so, 75 to 100 feet. But the point is, that's what I do. Now, again, if you have limit in components, you can actually start the load process with virgin brass and a new barrel. You just have to keep very detailed notes, because what's going to happen is, if you find a node, powder node, let's just say 2,900 feet per second. If it shoots, if he has low ES at 2,900 feet per second, and you find a good seating depth, later, once you get that brass fire formed and you shoot it the second time around, if you end up, I don't know, at 3,000 feet per second, all you have to do is slow it down back to 2,900, and you're going to be very close to finding the node again. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can start with brand new brass. I don't like doing it, but you can. Okay, so barrel break-in, I don't do any barrel break-in other than I clean the barrel when it's brand new, just to make sure there's nothing in there, right? I start, plus when I want to measure my jam, I want to make sure everything's clean in there. I measure all that, and I get started. Okay, once I shoot 100 or so rounds, I clean the barrel, and I clean it really good. You know, I mean, don't be afraid to use Ioso or JB border paste or anything. Just get that barrel clean. At that point, if it already sped up, you can start your load development. Like I say, you can even start without it speeding up, because you can always back it off to where you found the accuracy or the flat speed. Okay, so anyway, that's the initial fire form speed up barrel. Of course, I get the brass fired, I bring it back, I anneal the brass, I full length size the brass. Yes, I full length size it dirty. You know, if it's really dirty, I just wipe it with a rag and full length size it. I use dye wax for my lube, so I'm not worried about scratching dies or anything. Like I said, I wiped, if the brass is really dirty, I wipe it down. You can, if you want, you can wash the brass before you do any of this. That's up to you. I don't do it because I just find that it takes too much time, but you can. Okay, so what I do is I anneal the brass dirty, I full length size it dirty, I lube it, full length size it. That's gonna knock out my primers, and it's gonna set my neck tension. For bushing size, to find the bushing size, I recommend, at least this is what I do, I take a loaded round. You know, while the bullet's seated in the chamber or in the brass, I take a loaded round and I measure the neck diameter. Okay, whatever that neck diameter is. For example, in my Shihane, it's loaded round is 310 thousandths. Okay, that means I'm going to use a 307 thousandths bushing. It's going to be 3 thousandths below loaded round diameter, loaded neck diameter. Okay, and then from there I take it and I use an expander mandrel. Okay, remember the bushing is the bullet diameter minus 3 thousandths plus the neck wall thickness, all that stuff. That's why it's such a big number, right? That's why it's easier just to take a loaded round, measure the OD, and you're done. On the expander mandrel, you're actually dealing with the ID. So the expander mandrel, you're going to be able to use, typically I like to use 2 thousandths under bullet diameter. So if I'm running a 7mm, it's a 284, so I typically use a 282 expander mandrel. You can actually vary those. You can do a 282.5 or 283, whatever you want. You can play with mandrels at that point. You could keep the same bushing, just use different mandrels to give you the desired neck tension. I don't want to get, some of you have asked about using non-bushing dies. You can use it. The problem is you are losing the benefit of the mandrel, because I like to set my neck tension with the bushing, and I like to uniform it with an expander mandrel, right? If I neck it down 3 thousandths below, there's going to be some spring back. So some of it's going to spring back to about 2 thousandths, some of it maybe 2.5 thousandths, so on and so forth, right? So whenever I run a mandrel that's 2 thousandths below, then that's simply touching some, and some of it may not be touching at all. So all I'm doing is making the necks uniform. If you size it down too much with a non-bushing die, now you run the problem, or you run the chance of you're sizing the brass down too much, where now with the expander mandrel you haven't expanded too much. And if that's the case, then it's really hard to expand. You're gonna probably get some buildup on the mandrel and things of that nature. So you're asking the mandrel to do too much. You don't want to do that. Speaking of mandrel, before I go any further, when I get brand new brass, the first thing I do is I run the mandrel in there, because new brass is typically very tight. So anyway, now we expand our necks with our mandrel. At that point, you can clean your brass. When I clean my brass, I do it at that point. What it does is it cleans the brass, it cleans the pockets, and it gets the lube off of the brass. I only do it, I actually do a wet tumble, and I use stainless media. I use dish soap, just Dawn or whatever, and I use a Let Me Shine or Let Me Shine. And you can actually use a little bit of liquid car wax. The wax is going to keep your brass looking better for longer. It just adds a slight film of wax to the brass, and it's going to keep it from tarnishing. Makes it look good. I had forgotten to tell you guys about that. But anyway, and you don't need to do it too long. 20 minutes is all I need. You don't need too much. If you run it too long, that's when you run into problems of, you know, your neck's getting dinged up or the mouths and all that stuff. So just run it long enough to get the lube off and get the major buildup off of that brass. At that point, you take it out, you dry the brass. There's multiple ways you can do it. In the summer, as you guys know, I use those MTM inserts. You know, you take them out of the box, the 100 round box, you take the insert out. They make perfect loading blocks. You take those out of there, and I take them outside, set them on top of my AC unit, and my goodness, that you set it on top, when that AC unit comes on, it blows air, hot air right through that brass. In the summer, it's dry in about 5 minutes, fast. Now, if you are in, you know, it's raining outside or it's in the winter, you can take the same cookie, the same insert, right? You have your brass, it's all in that insert. You take a cookie sheet, put it on top like this. You flip it over, set it down, and you remove that insert. And the brass is gonna stay there. You slide it into your oven, and you pour just a small puddle of water, about half a dollar size, just in front of the brass. Okay, you put it in the oven, you turn the oven to about 220 degrees, and you leave it on there for about 30 minutes to an hour, whatever. That puddle is so you can monitor the brass. Once that puddle is gone, you know the brass is dry. So once that happens, take out your brass, set on your stove, or just turn off the oven. Let it cool down. Once it's cool, you take your insert again from that MTM box. You put it right over the brass. It'll fit because the brass is still standing there nice and perfect. You put it right back over. You flip it back over. Now you have your brass in that loading block, and then, you know, back to the reloading bench. That's how I do it. At that point, I trim the brass, I deburr it, I chamfer it. I use a Giro trimmer, so just one pass and done. Once that's done, I prime. Now, all these steps, I do them every time, okay? I do the same thing every time. After that, I prime the brass. My PRS stuff, I use just my Dillon 750, and I just let it prime. For my PRS stuff, I use the primer seater. So, and we're gonna get into that more, but whatever, just prime your brass however you typically do it. Just make sure they're seated nice and firm, okay? And of course, number 9, load my powder and seat the bullets, and done, right? So that's the process. The load tuning, okay? You're gonna select 2 to 3 primers to test. Typically 2 is plenty. If you only have 1, well, then you only test 1. And then we're gonna select the powder charge. Well, first we're gonna select the powder, right? You're gonna select a powder that fits that cartridge, and I mean, you can go online nowadays and you can find information. If you have Hodgdon powder, you can go to hodgdon.com and they have load data for a lot of cartridges. If you're using Vitovori, you can go to vitovori.com. You can kind of get some data, or even you can look up a powder burn rate chart, and it tells you more or less, where the powder is. So for example, let's say you have a 6BR, right? And Varget is typically a very good powder for a 6BR, but you can't find any powder, any Varget, right? So you can download the burn chart rate, or powder burn rate chart. You download that, and or you just go online, search for it, and then you can find where Varget is, and you can see the powders that are next to it that are very close. So for example, Vitovori N140 is very close to Varget. N150 slightly slower. I actually prefer N150 because I'm able to use it on my 6BR and my 6x47. So N150 is my go-to powder, but the point is, you just need to find a powder that fits your needs, right? So you're gonna find a safe starting load. Again, that goes back to finding online load data, typically from the powder manufacturer. And of course, because we are seating our bullets typically farther out, you can go above max, above book max. This is where you need to be very careful, okay? And this is what I mean by you need to watch out for pressure signs, okay? And you need to know what those are. But I'll get into that here shortly. So you need to find a safe starting load, okay? Once you find a safe starting load, we already have our seating depth, which is going to be jam minus 20 or shorter. You know, if you're limited by mag length, then use that. It doesn't matter, just shorter. You're going to load 10 rounds of each powder primer combination in about 1% increments. So about 2/10 of a grain for 6 BR, 6 Creed. If you're getting into magnums, maybe do 0.3 or 0.4 increments, okay? Let's just say we're doing 0.3 increments for this example, okay? Well, that's gonna, 10 rounds is gonna cover 3 grains. So again, you find a safe starting load, and then you start from there, and you start shooting them from low to high. Obviously, you're going to be using a chronograph, and there is no need to shoot at a target at this point. So even if you have a magneto speed or anything, it doesn't matter. Attach it right onto your barrel and go shoot. All we're looking for is chronograph data. Target at this point, target information at this point doesn't matter. This is where a lot of people get sidetracked. They have high ES, but because it's shot small on target or smaller, they think that's the load. No, we don't care about groups right now. All we care about is how consistent that load is. We're looking for ES, SD, whichever one you like. I do ES just because I'm an F-class shooter, right? You can have 19 shots in the V ring, but if you have one in the 8 ring, it does you no good. So I'm looking for ES to be low. SD is also a good indicator. Often people will argue that SD is a better indicator. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to use it, right? What's a good number? ES, if you can keep that under 20, I think you're fine. SD, keep it under 10. If you have a really big cartridge, well, then maybe increase those. For example, I had a guy that called me one time. I was doing a phone consultation, and he said, "Hey, my 6.5 Creedmoor, my ES is about 15. My 300 Norma, I think you had, it's about 30. How do I lower the 300 Norma ES?" And I said, "Well, they're the same." And he goes, no, the Norma's 30, the 6.5 Creedmoor is 15. The Norma is twice the ES. And I said, no, it's the same. I said, what's your powder charge for your Creedmoor? He said, about 40 grains. I said, what about for your Norma mag? He said, about 80. I said, see, it's twice the powder, twice the ES. So, you know, in percentage, they're the same. So anyway, you just have to keep in mind, yes, you're trying to get it as low as possible, but at some point, you get what you get. If you're not happy with it, you just need to change primer, change powder. But oftentimes, we just put too much weight on trying to get the lowest ES. And don't forget that your chronograph is not 100% accurate. Okay, so at some point, we just have to believe the target. Okay. Obviously, like I said, don't shoot at a target right now when you're working on ES. So you're gonna do the same powder charge with 2 or 3 different primers, and then you're gonna find a flat spot, whichever one shoots the flatter spot, and when you find a flat spot that fits your needs. What I mean by that is, let's say you're doing a hunting rifle, I don't know, a 300 Win Mag, and you're doing 168 or 180 grain bullets, right? And you're gonna use that for long range elk hunting. Well, it's kind of pointless for you to find a load that shoots 2,200 feet per second. It's might as well get a 308, right? So if you need the energy, you're probably going to find a powder primer combination that's going to be on the upper end of the node. If you are shooting competition, well, you're probably going to be looking for a node that gives you decent speed, maybe not top speed, but good speed, good brass life, you know, decent, maybe not crazy recoil. So again, you just have to figure out what it is that you're looking for and find it. Okay, once you're happy with that, like I said, you can go do your 10 shots, find the flat spots. All you do is you can just graph it, or heck, you can just look at the paper and find the place where the speed didn't increase as much, or your ES is, you have 10 shots, right? And let's say shot number 4, the ES is 2, shot number 5, ES is 4, shot number 6, ES is 5, right? Right there, that tells you there's a pretty good flat spot. And maybe the speed between shot 4 and 5 only increased by 10 feet or so. Well, that tells you there's a flat spot right there. So anyway, you load there, and then you take your seating depth and you start seating 3,000s deeper. Now we're going to do our accuracy test. Now we care about target, right? If you have a magneto speed that's attached to your barrel, remove it. You don't need it. You don't want it on there. The magneto speed is going to act like a tuner. So whatever result you get, they're going to change once you remove the magneto speed. So you don't want that. You want to remove it. If you have a tuner, the tuner behaves the same as seating depth. So if you have a tuner, you don't worry about seating depth at this point. You just go and adjust your tuner and you're going to be done. Okay. The other beauty about the tuner is, because you're not changing your seating depth, your powder charge is not going to change, right? If you don't have a tuner, you have to do a seating depth test. If you're doing a seating depth test, depending on how far you have to seat the bullet down, your powder charge may vary where it wants to be, because every time you seat the bullet down, you're taking up some case capacity. It's not much, but you are. Okay, so let's just say you don't have a tuner. Okay, you go and you do your seating depth test. All right, let me back up. Let me back up to number 6. When you shoot them, you're going to shoot from low to high, and you're looking for pressure signs. Flattened primers, gas leakage around the primer, heavy bolt lift, anything that seems out of the ordinary. Remember, you're going to start low and you're going to work your way up. You're looking at the chronograph. If it gives you excessive speeds or speeds higher than normal, that's a pressure sign. So just keep a good eye out for pressure signs, okay? And stop immediately. Obviously, you're going to be wearing hearing protection, eye protection, all that good stuff. So be very careful, okay? So back to seating depth test. You're going to go in 3,000 increments, and you're just going to go until you find you'll see your groups. You may start small and they may start getting bigger. Just keep going. They may get small again. They may start big and they start shrinking. You'll see the groups come in and out. How small? I don't know. It depends. A lot of it has to do with your shooting ability, your rifle, your components. There's a lot of things that go into this, right? Not all rifles are half MOA, or not all rifles are quarter MOA rifles, okay? So keep that in mind. However, doing this test will reveal how good your system is, okay? It's gonna show up. If the smallest groups that you get are 1 MOA, well, maybe that's all you can get, right? Then you may have, if you're not satisfied with that, you may need to change something. But the point is, this test will reveal how good your rifle or your system is. You plus your rifle plus your components plus your setup, everything. So anyway, you're doing a seating depth test, and once you find that small group, right? Let's just say you started at 2.830, and at 2.820, that's where your groups are shooting really good. Let's just say 2.823, 2.820, 2.817 shot really good. Well, you have two options. You can seat right in the middle of that seating depth test, or you can seat the longest one minus about 1 or 2 thousandths, depending on how much variance you have on your seating dice, right? If you sit in the middle, you're actually going to have more room for error on your seating die, but of course you're going to have less throat to burn out. Oftentimes it doesn't matter. okay, and I've discussed this on my Chasing the Lances stupid video. You have to test, you know, every now and then you just have to do a test, but this is how you find it, okay? Once you find it, let's just say 2.820 is where you settle on for your seating depth. Then you only move 10,000. So your powder charge should not have changed that much. However, if you want to if you want to make absolute sure that everything's perfect, now you load to 2.820 on your seating depth, and let's just say your powder charge is 30 grains, okay? So then you load 29.8, 29.6, you load the other way 30, 30.2, 30.6, and then you shoot from small, from low charge to high charge. So you start at 29.6, you shoot a group, 29.8, 30, 30.2, 30.4. I said 30.6 earlier, 30.4. You shoot all those groups at 100 yards on paper, and you'll know if your groups open up, if they stay the same, your ES, whatever. Just log all that, and you'll know where your node is. It may have shifted slightly high, slightly low, but you want to know exactly where your node starts and it ends. And the reason for that is, once you find exactly where it starts and where it ends, let's say it shifted and the center is 29.8 instead of 30. So you load at 29.8, right? And let's just say it's 80 degrees outside, right? And now your node, you know that from 29.6 to 30.2, your node is perfect, right? Nothing changed whenever you change that powder charge, right? Let's say you go out and, like, say you worked up your load, it's 80 degrees, and now you have to go hunt and it's gonna be 0 degrees, right? Well, you know that you can load all the way up to 30.2 even at 80 degrees with no issues. So if it's really cold outside, you can load 30.2 grains, and just don't get outside of your node. Don't go outside of it, right? But if it's a drastic change, now it's 0 degrees, you can load 30.2, and then you can go shoot. It's gonna shoot fine. Or if it's gonna be super hot, it's gonna be 110 degrees or some crazy heat like that, well, you can back off your 29.8, maybe you can load 29.6, okay? And you're gonna be fine because you already tested this, all right? So anyway, that's the reason for that. You wanna know where your load starts, where your load ends, or your node, right? And obviously you wanna keep your barrel clean throughout all this. You have to clean your barrel, you have to keep your barrel clean always, because that's going to give you the consistency that you're looking for. If you don't ever clean your barrel, every shot that you take, that barrel is going to be different. It just is. It's just going to get build up. So you want to maintain a relatively clean barrel, because you can always go back to clean, right? If you get it shooting when it's clean, you can always clean it and you know it's going to shoot. If you develop your load when your barrel has 400 rounds, well, it's only going to have 400 rounds for one round, and every time you shoot, it's going to include more it's going to get more buildup. And let's just say at 500 it quits shooting, right? Well, you can't get it from 500 down to 400. You can get it from 500 down to 0 if you clean it right, accurately, but you can't get it back to where it was at 400. So you always want to keep your barrels clean, and I've done a video on that as well. So that's how I do my load development, and that's how I keep my barrels and my rifle shooting precisely, or shooting good consistently, right? If you ever start to lose accuracy and your barrel's clean, your brass is prepped, everything's good, then go do a test where you load 3 thousandths longer, 6 thousandths longer. You should never ever get to that point, because you're going to be doing this test, every 100, 200 rounds. When you go out to the range, just load some ammo 3 thousandths longer and 6 thousandths longer and shoot it, see how it does. But if it happens to shoot better farther out, then that's your new seating depth. If it doesn't, then don't worry about it. Don't change a thing. So anyway, this is the my reloading process all in one page or in one video, and I hope this helps. Anyway, as always, if you have any questions, let me know. But hopefully this is the one video that I'll be able to refer you guys to if you have any questions about the reloading process. Obviously, I suggest that you go watch the individual videos, one after, you know, all of them, where I kind of do a little hands-on and all that good stuff. So you guys maybe can, if this doesn't put it all together 100%, maybe go watch those videos and hopefully it'll all come together. Okay. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. I just got back from Tennessee a week ago, and yeah, it was a great time. I met some of you guys out there. Man, I can't wait to go back next year. All right, that's all I have. I'm gonna continue with my reloading series for F-Class. The railgun came in. I gotta do a video on that as well. Man, this is just good times, good times. Of course, I gotta get ready for nationals. Nationals are coming up next month. I know some of you guys may be asking about tuners. You know, you can go to my website. I have tuners for rimfire. I have tuners for hunting rifles. The rimfire and the hunting are the same. Half 28, 5/8 24, 3/4 24. I have an adapter that that you can put on your hunting rifle, or of course you can always get the muzzle brake. They are in stock now, finally. You guys know I've been working really hard for that, but they're in stock, so you can get a tuner brake. And F-Class John is doing some testing right now, and it's some pretty incredible stuff about seating depth and tuner and the effects that it has on group size. And I tell you what, you pretty much lay those over one another, and the waves look pretty darn similar. So that info is coming up soon. But yeah, like I said, if you have a tuner, then you can skip over the whole seating depth testing and just adjust your tuner. So there's a shortcut for you. And of course, the beauty about tuners is you can tune factory ammo as well. You can also tune factory ammo by, you know, doing a seating depth test. However, like I said, the tuner just makes it super simple. All right, that's all I got. Thank you, and keep them centered. Bye-bye.